Welcome into our Big Ten Network studios. I'm Dave Revson. This is the first of 14 hour-long practice shows between now and August the 19th as we take you inside practices throughout the league. We'll get you the insights of key players as well as the coaches and, of course, the insights of our analysts. Howard Griffith, Jerry DiNardo, scheduled to make all 14 stops. Let's kick it to them in Lincoln. Guys.
Thanks, Dave. Coach, first opportunity to see Coach Rhule. First impressions?
I think first you look at the systems, a little bit different on defense with the 3-3-5. That was certainly interesting. Offensively, they look pretty much like everyone else. They're a spread team, but they huddle. And I think that as they play against matchups and as they have to burn some clock in a close game, that'll help them. So those are my first impressions just on the structure of practice.
So you talk about structure. I talk about the period where we had a fullback. Haven't seen that at all. You see it sometimes in goal line, but there was a heavy emphasis on their inside run. And I think as you just mentioned, you talked about being able to salt the clock away toward the end in those close games. They want to be physical. And I think using that fullback, going to tight ends, will give them an advantage as people try to prepare for them.
I believe there's only 3 teams that have returning quarterbacks coming back. And Nebraska's not one of them, obviously. Jeff Sims is a transfer from Georgia Tech. I got to tell you, Howard, he is a big, strong, physical guy. He's got some development to do in the pass game, and he's learning a new system, and he's a portal guy, right? So it's not like this is the second year in the system. So I think the pass game comes a little bit slower for quarterbacks in the portal age. But when he did run it, and I don't think you're going to see him run it more than 2 times a quarter, maybe in a game. He's not just any quarterback running. I mean, he looks like a big tailback running the ball.
You can talk about the players on the field and the schemes. But how about this new facility that they have going up? I had a chance to at least look at it from the outside. It looks like it's going to be a spectacular place for the kids to spend a lot of time.
So we have been in the Big Ten Network so long that 14 years ago, 15 years ago, Ohio State had the newest facility. Now Ohio State has the oldest facility. Right. And Nebraska has Nebraska does have the new one, right? We've seen Indiana build one. We've seen Purdue build one. The arms race is just incredible, but you're right. This may be the best one that we've seen when they finish with it.
When you think about them on the defensive side, I know we'll get into defense. What kind of jumped out at you initially?
I like the way their D-line runs, okay? And I think when you play a zero nose, meaning someone lined right up in the center, as you know, and 2 tackles lined up on the offensive tackles, and they move, very difficult to block. Offenses don't see it much, so I think the scheme is really unique, and they're deep in the back end. Linebacker, I didn't get a great feel for the linebacker. I think they're deep in the back end. They run up front, and I think they're in a really interesting scheme.
Yeah, anytime we have an opportunity to be around a new program or a new coach creates that new program, it's always fascinating just to watch the people move around, not just the players, but also the support staff. And it really seems like when you talk about that message, I always talk about the message from the front of the room. You just hear that. I have an opportunity to talk to a bunch of the support staff, and they kind of echo the same thing that Coach Rhule talks about. And I guess that's really an important part when you're implementing a new system or quote-unquote new culture.
I think one way to institute a new culture is to be approachable. And Matt Rhule is as approachable of a major college coach that I think that I've ever been around. He's easy to like. He's easy to talk to. He's nice to everybody. He welcomes everybody. He's certainly not shy. And so when he's the messenger, the message is usually received pretty positively.
Well, we had a great day today. Let's throw it back to Chicago.
As always, a lot of eyes will be on the QB spot. The Huskers once again going with the transfer. Jeff Sims taking over. As the guys mentioned, a true dual threat during his time at Georgia Tech, accounting for 41 TDs. If there's an issue with Sims, it is the turnovers. He averages the most per game of any active FBS player who's played in at least 15 contests. A new face taking snaps and a new face calling plays. Marcus Satterfield with Jared.
Coach, I read during the summer that you said that the huddle was the heart and soul of college football. Most teams nowadays don't huddle, but I thought that was really interesting. Is that strategic as much as something that you feel strongly about?
I just feel very strongly about it. I don't think it's a waste of time. I mean, we huddled last year in the places I were, and we were getting plays ran, before the play clock got, down to 17, 16 seconds. I just think it's so important in today's world. As coaches, we're all the time telling our quarterback they need to be a leader.
Right.
And, to lead the team, yet when do they get to speak? Because now that snap counts have went to clapping their hands, signal for plays from the sidelines with, just with cards and things of that nature. And you look up and the quarterback's never getting a chance to address the team. I mean, there's some great moments in football games, as you know, some, great memories in football games on fourth downs, the things that are said in that huddle that are unscripted by any coach, leadership moments for not only the quarterback, but for the O-line, the running back, receivers. They all get a chance to kind of voice let's go moment. I think that we've lost that in college football, and I'm going to do my part in bringing it back.
The leadership part is really interesting because I'm guessing most high school guys that you get to coach, they haven't been in the huddle as well. What kind of feedback do you get from the players?
Just calling plays. I mean, you have to, you sit in meeting rooms now and you just go over the play call. How to, you have to tell a story when you call a play and just, look people in the eye, make sure they know what you're saying. So that's huge too. Like, the one, they've never been in a huddle. Two, half the time they don't even call plays. They just get signals and go from there.
Let's say with the quarterback, how is coaching a quarterbacks changed with the portal, that you may get someone only for a year or two, you may get an older player than the traditional way prior to the portal?
I think you have to be very strategic. You're recruiting a certain type of personality, a loyal personality, a competitive personality, a guy that you feel fits your organization, that will stick it out and stay. We understand that only one of those guys get to play, so I understand if I don't win the job, I want to go play football. I may get in the portal and go find a place to play. I understand all that, but the days of building depth charts and building rooms are over, because you can go from 6 to 3, 6 to 2, and one blink of an eye. So I think that you have to stay ahead of it. You have to know who's out there. You have to anticipate guys that may be getting in the portal. Building recruiting boards and just making sure that you have a good, strong quarterback room. We're not going to be hard-headed about it by any stretch of the imagination, because as you know, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a very good team.
How does it impact the install? I mean, you may have a quarterback for a year. You may never get to the second year of install. How's that changed?
For me, it really hasn't. You just kind of go with the flow. I mean, a lot of these guys that you're getting played a lot of football and been coached by a lot of really good coaches. Like Jeff, was coming from Georgia Tech. He had a really good quarterback coach,
right.
And you could tell, just from the time he walked in the quarterback room. So he's already a long way ahead. Played a lot of football. So I think it's different for different individuals, but we just kind of go and don't stop until they either graduate or they leave.
You've been with Coach Rhule a long time. What are his strengths?
He develops not only players, he develops coaches, and he's made me. I can, from 2013 when we started at Temple to now, just he is unbelievable at developing coaches and just putting different pressures on us, giving us different things, different avenues, put us in a great environment to learn and to be able to be ourselves. So I think he's unbelievable at just development.
Appreciate your time. Enjoyed watching you work today.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Good hit. Good hit. I did. Break.
Hey, running backs. See them working over there, yes? They work, we work.
The ball's going to hit B gap out. Does everyone understand that? This is an attitude run, fellas. This defines just our DNA.
Lincoln is stop one of our camp tour. It's a place the Huskers will not play until September the 16th. First two games are on the road. A Thursday night opener against Minnesota, followed by a visit to Boulder to take on Deion Sanders and the Buffs. Michigan State, Maryland, the three crossover opponents from the East. Let's head back to Lincoln. Jerry and Howard with a look at the Huskers' defense.
Thanks, Dave. This Husker team is going to have big road games, 2 on the road. So defense is always going to be a big part of that if you want to be successful. They have a unique twist to their defense.
Yeah, it's a unique situation. You go on the road, but you're a new staff. So the opponent, Minnesota's first, Colorado's second. You know, they don't have a book on you, obviously. But Matt Rhule wanted to run this 3-3-5 defense, and Tony White's the perfect guy to do it. So I think it helps them a little bit in this regard, Howard. It's not only they don't have any tape on Nebraska, but they're going to be going against a unique defense because it breaks all the blocking rules. It's a difficult scheme to run, but it's a difficult scheme to block.
You being a former offensive coordinator, What does that do for you? Because you just mentioned tough to block, not only in pass protection but also run. What are kind of the advantages of going with a defense of that type of style?
Well, it's multiple. So you're going to have to do a lot of prep work for the different looks. One of the problems you have is unless your defense runs a 3-3-5, which I don't think anyone else in the Big Ten does, I don't think Colorado does, I don't think Minnesota does, that you're going to have to train your scout team to be at least halfway decent at simulating it. Whereas if it was a 4-3 or some other traditional defense, you could just have your second. You could even take your ones and go against the twos with it, go against the two defense. So again, they're in this defense for the uniqueness, and I think the fact that they're going to start on the road against two teams that won't have a book on them will maybe help Nebraska get ready for it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that they have to be solid at is the guys up front. You look at Ty Robinson, him inside, I think he's going to command double teams all the time. He's really grown as a player and just his sheer strength coming off an injury, but he has the ability to push the pocket. And if they can allow the linebackers to stay free, that fifth defensive back to be able to come down, you don't necessarily know where that extra rush is going to be coming from. That can be the advantage. But I think ultimately it's about the toughness of what they need to be defensively and be able to be smart on the defensive side.
Yeah, and you mentioned the front. They move well. And so whether it's coincidence or not, they inherited a defensive front that really fits the scheme. But again, the uniqueness will be interesting. Toughness is always a big part of defense and the way they practice today. And, they're going to go against two tough teams and when they open against Minnesota and Colorado. But it's going to be a fun watch.
Yeah, I like their back end and where they're on the back end and long. And you can really see the athleticism in the players that they've brought in. And even the guys that have come in through the transfer portal to make an impact on this football team is going to be a big part of it. But I think the secondary has to play big. They have to be physical, being able to cover, whether they end up in situations where they have to play some man, some zone, take away that number one receiver that they may have to double team at times. It's going to be something they're going to have to be able to do. And one of the things, I know we talked about the practice overarching, there's a lot of teaching that goes on as well. And they get a lot of reps on the defensive side. So they see a lot. And they got a lot of tape that they're able to coach off of.
Yeah, I think this is the first team that I can remember that did a lot of team circuit drills. In other words, there was one defense and one offense on one field. They split the field in two, so they had four things going. So that was a little unique, and obviously it helps the young players.
Yeah. Let's throw it back to Dave in Chicago.
As you guys know, some new faces on that D, including several SEC transfers. Chief Borders coming over from Florida, where he was primarily a special teams player. Fellow linebacker M.J. Sherman appeared in every game for Georgia over the last 2 years as the Bulldogs won back-to-back national titles. And up front, former four-star Elijah Judy figures to play a prominent role after playing 2 years at Texas A&M. Familiar faces back on that D as well, though, including Ty Robinson with Howard.
All right, I'm here with a big fella today. Ty, how are you? How was practice today?
I'm good. I think we had a pretty solid practice today.
What are some of the things that you are trying to get out of practice this year?
I think just like the intensity-wise, really honing in on the new kind of techniques that Coach T. Knight has been teaching us, and coming out here with a purpose. I mean, they say that we have to come out here with an intention to practice, and so I think that's been kind of the big thing is that we come out every day just working on one thing, whether it be something new or the same thing from the day before, correcting.
So you talk about that purpose, coming out here with a plan that you want to execute. What were some of the things that you wanted to get out of today's practice?
Yeah, so I've been out the past 10 months because I had shoulder surgery in January, so I rehabbed. So for me, it was really kind of getting back into my mojo a little bit. First step, get off, all that kind of stuff. I could kind of tell as practice went on, my fatigue kind of started to set in. I wasn't as powerful in my get off, but that's kind of the main thing. And then maybe tomorrow I'll work on my hands a little bit more, and then the next day I'll work on my eyes or something like that, and just kind of repeat that process.
What's it been like going through the off season and now getting and putting the helmet on under Coach Rhule?
Yeah, it's a fresh start for sure. He's brought in a lot of new changes, but I think they were better for us. We had a pretty intense summer. We went 5 days, 6 days a week, every day, working out with Coach Campbell and his staff. And they just kicked our butts all summer, and then we'd go into conditioning and then go into OTAs, and it was one thing after other meetings, meeting with the younger guys, kind of trying to get them caught up and ready for fall camp. But I think he kind of brings that kind of tone and discipline I think we needed as a team. And I think I'm starting to see that a lot of guys are changing and kind of being like, all right, I'm bought in, I'm going for it.
One of the things I noticed while watching you practice today, did you spend a lot of time coaching up the young guys as well and telling them, hey, you need to take this rep again because that wasn't a great rep. Where did you get that leadership quality from?
Yeah, I have to thank Jason Peters. He's a guy who used to play here back in the 90s. He was around for the past couple of years. And he's just kind of that standard, that kind of tone of what a black shirt meant. And he kind of gave me what his rendition of a black shirt was. And I've kind of taken it for myself and I've really tried to apply it in practice. And then to know, like, they ask us, like, what we want our legacy to be. And so when I'm gone from here, I want to knowing that I got the younger guys ready to take my role when it's time for them to coach up the younger guys for that standard as a D-line.
How important is that to you, to make sure that they're embracing that standard?
Yeah, I feel like it's a big deal to me. I mean, it's important because we reflect the whole defense. I mean, if the D-line's having a bad day, we're getting pushed out of our gaps, then I feel like the secondary level and even the DBs are going to feel it because they have to do extra work. But I mean, if we're holding our ground, we're taking up blocks, we're having our linebackers come free, it's going to be a fun, easy day, and we're going to have a good time, and the meetings are even going to go better, so we don't have to go later at night and watch some bad film. But there's no bad film, just learning from mistakes.
What's kind of you want the staple to be, or the identity of this defensive line and defense as a whole to be for you?
Yeah, so we have our mantra. It's relentless, discipline, and violent. I think that's our mantra for the team, and I think that kind of fits in with what we want our black shirt culture to be. Is we want to be relentless to the ball. We want to be disciplined in our technique and violent in finishing and letting the other team know that we're here.
Different style of offense that you get to practice against day in and day out. They want to run the ball. They want to be physical. Have you seen the change in the mentality of your offense?
Oh, yeah. My body feels – I'm feeling it. I'm feeling our guys are blocking hard up front. They're giving us a great look, and I just hope that I'm giving them a great look back. Just, iron sharpening iron at the end of the day and getting ready for Minnesota.
How would you describe Sims as a quarterback?
He is an athletic freak. He kind of reminds me of Cam Newton a little bit. I think he can kind of move like him. Maybe he just needs to kind of bulk up a little bit to be more like him. And he's got a great arm. I mean, and he's got great game sense. I mean, he can feel us coming off the back end, off the tackle when he's looking the other way, and he's really good at feeling that pocket. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do for us.
Success for Nebraska football in 2023 is
one play at a time, one game at a time. It's just that's what's going to have to take, and everyone's bought in, and everyone's just going to, listen to Coach Rhule because we've seen his process, and he's explained his process to us, and when we show it out here, it works. And when we don't, we try to do our own thing or we kind of fall out of it. It doesn't seem to work. So I think just a lot of us buying in and building a brotherhood together and buying into all this one idea that we can actually do this.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Playing for Coach Rhule is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to show how disciplined you are and show how tough you are.
I always say the one word that comes up to my mind every time I think about him is like the passion he has.
He demands so much out of his players, out of his best players too, not just he elevates everybody he's around. Knowing what he expects and giving what he expects is different.
Whatever he says, he means. Like a coach like that, it's easy to play for him.
Nothing but positive surrounding Matt Rhule, who has already orchestrated 2 impressive rebuilds as a college head coach. Temple had won 10 games just once in school history. When Rhule took over in 2013, they did it in back-to-back years under his tutelage. Went from there to Baylor, took over a scandal-ridden program, became the first Power 5 coach ever to take a team from 11 losses to 11 wins in 2 seasons. So what's the plan in Lincoln? Jerry and Howard with the new Nebraska coach.
Pleased to be joined by Coach Rhule after practice today. Where do you feel your team is right now?
We're still probably in that introductory phase of trying to figure out who we are. this first week, getting guys kind of in the grind of getting acclimated, trying to build some calluses on ourselves so we're ready for the season. But I like our work ethic. We're getting a lot of different situations, everything from third down to no huddle today. So they're coming along. We just have to kind of put stack days together.
Coach, tremendous turnaround at Temple and Baylor. What's the most important thing you have to get done the first year of taking over a program?
I think it's really practice. Guys have to buy into the way that we want to practice. It's physical, it's competitive. It's, as you saw, there's 3 drills going on. There's not a lot of time to stand around. If the players say, hey, this is hard, why are we doing it? Then it takes time. If the players say, you know what, I'm going to embrace how hard this is because it's going to make me tough, then you really have a chance. So I think just that buy-in on the way we practice, and we've got good players, good kids. They want to do the right things.
We've also talked about this offense. You've talked about wanting to run, being physical at the point of attack. We had a chance to see that at practice. How do you assess where they are now to where they first were when you first started to talk about this is how we're going to play the game?
Yeah, today was our first day kind of in gap schemes, a little bit of power, a little bit of counter. They've picked it all up pretty well. They like physicality. They're tough kids. They want to be physical. This is a hard defense to run the ball against. There's so many different mic points and things. I mean, I don't think you see the same defense ever twice. You never see the same front twice. I know that. So it's always a real challenge. But I like where we're coming in terms of that. I think we're going to have the ability to run the football. I like our backs, and I like our quarterback's abilities all to carry the football.
Coach, I didn't find the fact that you wanted to run the ball, play defense, and huddle that unusual until you said, and that's what the state wants, the fans. You've done an unbelievable job embracing the fans in the state of Nebraska. Why'd you feel that was so important to mention something like that? This is what everybody wants to see.
Well, we're Nebraska's team, and we're the people of Husker Football Nation. We're their team, and so it's not for show. We're not acquiescing and placating fans. This is who we are. Like, this is who I was at Temple. I'll never forget when I came to see Trev. I saw Admiral Ted Carter, who was our school president, who had been at Navy, and we went to Navy and won in the conference championship game. And I remember him saying to me, Matt, I just want you to build the team you had at Temple. And that was my favorite time probably in coaching. I love playing football that way, and so it's what we want. It's what the administration wants, and it's certainly what the fans want. So, when you try to do something that it's not really who you are, you're never going to be great at it. This is who we are.
What does Sims give you at quarterback?
Well, I think he's a leader first and foremost. He's so even keel, way more even keel than the coaches are, which is a good thing, right? And I just think he has a big arm. He can be accurate. He understands situational football. Even we had a period out there today, 2nd and 7 to 10. He's checking the ball down. He's getting us into third and manageable. But the added ability of his legs, for him to have the quarterback run game, for him to scramble, I think he can be a dynamic threat.
Going back to the glory days, I can remember Coach Osborne was a great recruiter, but there weren't enough players in the state really to have the kind of program he wanted. So he went nationally. You were ranked 5th in the Big Ten this year in recruiting, first year out. What's your recruiting niche? How do you see that?
Well, we want to recruit the state. I think the football in Nebraska and the amount of prospects coming out, it's one of the things I studied. There's enough talent that you can go win with here. So we have to do a great job of retaining in-state talent and have that extend to this entire area, through Kansas City, through St. Louis. There's great football players coming out of the Midwest. Obviously, our ties in Texas. We want to go to Texas every year. We want to go down to Atlanta and Florida, where we've recruited for years, and we have some ties in the Northeast that have paid off already in the first year. So we'll go anywhere in the country. Huddle right from right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, has changed the world in terms of seeing everybody. But we want to be great at home, great at Texas, great down in Florida, Georgia.
What are some of the things that you need to happen coming out of training camp to know that this team is mentally prepared for the challenges that are going to be in front of them?
I think when you look back over the last 5 years and you see so many close games, to me, that's a lot of different things. That's conditioning. That's mental and physical toughness. But that's also practicing those situations. We're kind of just now, next week, we'll get into all the 2-minute, all of the end of game. But like I said, today we were able to get red zone. We were able to get third down. We were able to get no huddle. We were able to get all these different things that show up in games, 2nd and long, and then finishing with, kind of final plays, fourth and goal. I want to have a team that when he gets to the end of the game, they're not panicking. They're not looking for the perfect play call. The right players make the plays work. And so that's the key for us. I think we're going to do a lot of things well, but when it comes down to crunch time, it comes down to the fourth quarter, I want to see our best. And so we have to practice this way in order to do that. Yeah,
and speaking of practice, the portal, I think, has changed a lot about college football. I think I read somewhere you lost 25, but you brought 40 in, which is probably what everyone's doing. Has the portal made you camp change? Do you go about the way you practice different now with more older guys coming in?
I don't know that. I do think we have to do a good job of, if there's a guy who's played for 5 years, and 4 or 5 years. Some guys have COVID years, are going into their 6th year, making sure that, understanding they have a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. But we believe in reps. I don't believe in standing around and watching. We believe in reps. We believe in giving guys opportunities. People say power corrupts. I always think powerless corrupts. When you feel like you're powerless to earn a spot, so we put everyone on tape. We evaluate everyone. We watch everyone. And, some of that is what I've done in the past. A lot of that's Coach Paterno. Some of that is also, Coach Osborne, the way they did things here is what we're trying to emulate because it works with a bigger roster.
I don't want to say wins and losses, right? What I want to say is, how do we know this team, and how do Huskers fans know that this team is moving in the right direction when they're just watching them, whether they're in the stands or watching from home?
Yeah, I think when I've had recruits come in and they're like, Coach, are you guys going to win? I always say, watch our intentionality, watch our attention to detail, watch the way we do things, watch the way our players carry themselves. If everything we do is elite and everything we do is to a high standard, as Bill Walsh said, champions behave like champions before they're champions. They have a winning standard of performance, and so our standards have to be really high. If you see that, we're going to win, but we also have to go win. The worst thing you could do in life is have the disease of, it's close games. Oh, well, we finished 5-7. We're so close. Close is not good enough. So I don't know where we'll be this year, but we're going to have a high standard for ourselves and high expectations, and just keep fighting until we meet them. And whether that's the first game or the last game or the next year, nothing will stop us from that type, sort of day by day. Hey, let's match our standards.
Coach Rhule, thanks for your time. Appreciate it and enjoyed the hospitality here today.
Yeah, good to have you guys here. Thanks,
Coach.
Stop one of our camp tour continues from Lincoln. A lot of questions surrounding this Huskers team, but the running back spot is not one of them. Several known commodities led by Anthony Grant, who ran for more than 900 yards last year, topping the century mark on 5 occasions. For more on Grant and the guys around him on offense, let's go back out to Jerry and Howard.
Coach, let's switch to the offensive side and tell me what you saw on that side of the football.
More depth in the offensive line, I think, than we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. And, Scott Frost probably deserves some credit for that. They recruited a lot of these guys, if not all of them. Again, I think they're athletic, much like their defensive line. I'm going to go away today thinking that they're going to be good at the line of scrimmage. But you're asking me about offense. So I think depth, they're a gap scheme, they're a zone scheme. They have a quarterback that can run, so they always can have a numbers. They always can have a double team. I think it's probably the best line that I can recall in the last 2 or 3 years here at Nebraska.
One of the things I watched during the individual drill when the offensive line were working against each other was the fact that they finished. They finished about 15 yards to 20 yards down the field. And I thought that was unique because I hadn't seen it really that much. Normally you'll see them maybe go 5-6 yards, shut it down. These guys were getting pushed for 15 to 20 yards down the field.
I laughed because I saw the same thing, and I was thinking about the staff meeting when I was dividing up the field. So offensive line, you go here. And I was going to say, how much room did the offensive line coach ask for? Because you're right, it was unusual, and it was well done.
Yeah, I thought the hand placement, I think one of the reasons they do it, right, you're going against an individual, and then they change the direction in which they're going. So they want to see you make those adjustments, trying to replace those hands and get them back inside if they ultimately get outside. Also like this running back room. They're going to run the football. A lot of power, a lot of lead with the fullback. This is just a different way of really going after offense. Can we go as far to say this is similar to, I don't know, when Purdue decided they wanted to go and just spread everybody out? Or is it not that drastic to be able to play with a tight end and be able to play with two tight ends and a fullback at times?
Yeah, I thought the uniqueness, Howard, was they want to run the gap scheme like an I formation team, right? I mean, you've been talking about the fullback since we got here.
Yes, it's true.
And so they're going to run some gap scheme with the fullback. They're going to run some lead with the fullback. They're going to run some zone. And yet they have a quarterback in Jeff Sims who will threaten the defense. Not easy. He's not an option quarterback. He's not going to run to the tough. But when you can zone, when you can gap, and when you can put the ball in the stomach of the tailback, a good tailback, and like you say, a good room of tailbacks, with an offensive line that seems to be the best we've seen in the last couple of years, I think they've got a chance in the run game to be pretty good.
Yeah, Sims seems to have a real good control of what this offense is all about. Now, it's still early.
Right.
I think he still has room to grow. He's not a finished product, but that's a good thing. But just the athleticism, to watch him move, throw the ball on the run, he's going to continue to get better, I think, each and every week. And I think that'll show up once the games start. Once you start to get a lot of those game reps and you have an opportunity to be in some of those situational situations that you'll be able to execute. But I really like what I saw from him today.
Yeah, and he's a physical runner. I think if you look at it critically, the pass game is not where the run game is for a couple reasons. Jeff Sims needs more reps in this particular offense in the pass game because of the portal. He's a first-year guy. And the depth at the wide receivers, nothing like the depth so far of the offensive line and the running back. So if you look at them, they're built to run the ball right now, and that's what Matt Rhule wants to do anyway. The pass game needs some work, and I think when they do that, they could be a complete offense.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm interested in, they've got to make some hay and some more room in special teams as far as field goals are concerned. And you lump that in with the offense as well. I think that's something that's going to continue to play out through camp. I don't think they've settled on a guy just yet, but it's going to be important that they'll be able to get that type of effort, be able to get points out of special teams as well.
Yeah, and like every coach, and it's not unique to Nebraska. They worked a ton on it, and you want to work a ton on it during camp because you don't have that time once you're on a 20-hour clock and you got some things going on with school and everything else. So camp's always a good time to work extra hard on the special teams, and obviously that's what they were doing.
Well, I really enjoyed it from the offensive side. So let's throw it back to Chicago and Dave Refson.
Thanks, fellas. Part of the strategy for rebuilding the Huskers revolved around the transfer portal, where Nebraska picked up 13 players. Only 4 Big Ten schools had more, including 2 others with new coaches in Purdue and Wisconsin. We've talked about QB Jeff Sims as one of the most prominent members of that group. Here he is now with Howard.
First opportunity to see you out working, running the ball a lot, and also throwing it around. How are you acclimating to the new system?
I feel like the new system is fitting me well. It's like I said earlier, it's very versatile. So we got a lot of different pieces that we can do, and I just try to do my best to master everything and just kind of go out there and just work on things I need to work on and master the stuff that I'm good at.
How would you describe your style of play?
Really unpredictable. I can beat you with my arm, I can beat you with my legs, I can beat you with my mind. So it's really anything that I need to do, I'll do it.
When you look at this offense, what are some of the things that the offense needs to do as a whole? Obviously, you're included in that to be successful this year.
We just need to stay consistent. We can't hurt ourselves, and we just got to go out there and play for each other. We do those 3 things, we'll be all right.
Looks like you got a really good stable of running backs that you can hand the ball off to. Just talk about those guys a little bit.
Yeah, those guys come to work every day. They hold each other accountable. They just go out there and work. They get better every day, and that's something that you love to see because if you're not getting better every day, you're not doing it right.
I know you like to throw it around, but it looks like you're also are willing to take that check down as well when there's nothing open down the field. How long did it take you to get comfortable that everything can't be the big play and you got to take exactly what the defense gives you?
Yeah, I think that's just something I learned over the years of being in college football. I know my freshman year I probably wouldn't have taken the many, but I had a coach that showed me that check downs they can be as big as deep shots. Anything to get a completion and keep the drive going. That's what I got to do.
Talk about your receivers a little bit.
Yeah, them guys are just workaholics. Our practices they're not easy. And they just go out there and work. They push through it, and they do what they can do.
Coach talks about being able to run the ball, being physical. You need that offensive line. And by the way, you got a fullback. What do you think about that? Because I'm a former fullback, so you better say something nice about us. What do you think about having a fullback in your backfield?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Just an extra blocker, a big, tough guy to just go out there and open up holes, open up gaps, and just – hey, our fullbacks, they mobile too, so we can do a lot with them.
Do you have some individual goals that you want to hit this year? Tell the truth. Don't tell me you're a team guy.
I am a team guy, but my biggest individual goal is to be the best player I can be for my team, and just keep being the same person every day, getting better every day. and leading my team to a championship. That's my biggest goal.
Ty said you're a lot like Cam Newton, but he also said you need to get in the weight room a little bit more so you can be like him. But that's how he described your game. Are there some pro quarterbacks that you look at and that you want to emulate?
Yeah, I watch a lot of quarterbacks. I watch Lamar a lot, just seeing how he operates the game, moving around. I watch Aaron Rodgers. He has great mechanics, and just seeing his mechanics, his footwork. And then Josh Allen, he's another quarterback that I watch, a big guy. Tom Brady, I watch him a lot just because he's so precise, in his decision making, his accuracy, and there's a lot of different things that you can take from each quarterback.
Tell me why the fans should be excited about Nebraska football right now.
Because as I said, we come out here and work every day, and our biggest goal is to be the toughest team on the field at all times. And that's something that's the brand of Nebraska, tough football, and that's what we are. We've been coming all off season, doing hard things, doing uncomfortable situations, and I feel like there's no team right now that would be tougher than us.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time, and good luck this season.
Thank you.
Double gap and a half, right, Rhule? Squeeze that, you should be gapping and a half, and once you see him pull, wide, there you go. Good, press, good. Don't be too quick. You're playing the drill. Don't be too quick.
Tough challenge for new defensive coordinator Tony White, taking over a Huskers D to finish 12th in the Big Ten in total defense a season ago. White coming from Syracuse, where he led a nice turnaround in the Orange D over the last few years. The Cuse finished in the top 20 nationally in that total defense stat in 2022. Here's White now with Jared.
Coach, the 3-3-5 system of defense that you're installing, advantages to that scheme?
It brings a lot of versatility. You can bring different looks, challenge the offense's targeting. You can really jump in and out of fronts. And that's the main thing. You're just trying to make the offense work. These offenses now are so complex, and they make you defend every part of the field, every play. So we're kind of trying to do the same. You gotta protect every which way. You got to know your protections. You got to know your targeting. Make it difficult for those guys.
When you first got to Nebraska and you studied the offenses of the Big Ten, anything jump out at you?
Yeah, the line play. Jerry, the line play in the Big Ten, it's probably some of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. They're big, they're physical, and now, especially with the new head coaches and the new offensive coordinators, you're starting to bring some versatility, a lot of different formations, a lot of philosophies. So it's going to be a big challenge, but it's going to be a good one.
Most important thing you want to get done during camp?
I think the biggest part that I'm responsible for is making sure that we set the tone, the identity. And it's really cool because, when you listen to Coach Rhule speak and you see and you get around him, he's really like an old school defensive guy, like a front guy, so he's all about the physicality and the way we do things, and that's the most important part. We want to make sure we know what we're doing, but most importantly, how we're doing things, how we communicate, how we're going to run to the ball, how we're going to tackle, how we're going to get off blocks. Setting up that identity, I think, is the most important thing right now.
Who are some of the players that the fans will notice on defense early in the year?
Oh man, starting up front, Nash. The dude is 325 pounds, and he's slimming up. He's a slim 325. Ty Robinson is one of the best D linemen out there as well. I think backers wise, you got Luke Reimer and Nick, and Bullock is coming on. You got the transfers, MJ, Chief Borders, Jamari. Those guys that like what they're doing right now, they're working hard. And then DBs wise, Isaac Gifford, Malcolm Hartzog. I think everybody knows about Quentin. Those guys in the secondary run around, and then there's going to be a couple surprises back there as we get through camp to see. Tommy Hill running around. He's doing a great job. Has really matured and showed out last couple of days. So it's fun to watch the guys mature, know what to do, but become part of the brotherhood. Again, as it all goes back to that identity. And I think as everybody comes together, we start to do things better. So it's going to be fun to watch.
When you were playing in UCLA in the late 90s, early 2000s, did you ever think they'd be in the Big Ten Conference?
Bro, you said that's a long time ago. Pac-10 back then. No way. UCLA and USC in the Big Ten, that's ridiculous right now. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Have you talked to any friends that you played with, and now they know you're in the Big Ten?
No, not at all, not right now. But I'm sure when we go back out, I haven't even been back there since, man, I don't know, in at least a decade. So I have not. But it's crazy that little patch of Pac-12 is going away for the Big Ten. It's cool.
Have you looked up the schedule when you're playing them?
No, listen, you see how things are running around over here? I'm just looking up what we got next in the next hour. No, but no, it's all gonna be good.
We appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.